I was born Manuel Sasha Bartels,
Okay.
but my legal name is William Sasha Riley at this time.
Okay. And was that before you tried to defend yourself from Trump or after? Do you remember?
That was after. That was
After.
as a punishment, if you want to call it that. What happened at that party was part of the punishment, and then
Multiple farms, and usually it was parties. So there was individuals like Trump that were flown into the parties, and
yes,
then
and they would have like a building, a house.
Not releasing the Epstein files. Fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't care what you do. Start a fucking war. Just don't let them get out. If I go down, I will bring all of you down.
Welcome to the sacrificed.
And all the rest of us decided that their own absolute monstrosity of desires was more important. And I just want to think that that condition should be allowed to exist.
yeah,
I forget who said it, but evil only exists, or something about good people doing nothing. Evil exists because good people do nothing. Something to that effect.
yeah.
And I don't know, this level of evil I don't think should exist, but we will see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna spend a little time outdoors and get some follow-up calls going, and we'll figure this out. Okay.
So thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. And hey, something else before we go, I'll just tell you one of my own, two of my mantras. Mantra isn't the word I'd like to say because I don't practice occultist sort of Buddhism. Two of my mottos, I guess. Honor self, honor all is one, and fangs forward, faith up is another. So that's my approach on these items. If that helps.
I do appreciate all the dude.
Thank you.
I hope it's just that some good will come out of this. Is it? And if that just goes exposing the bad people, then so.
Sasha, I'll make sure. And how I can't even quite really speak to you about how I've already made sure there is justice, and it's much more immense than anyone else really experiences awareness of, and justice is here now. Okay.
I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Sasha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
I don't have one with him as my direct commander.
Okay. So before...
Michael, what's that?
No, go ahead, tell me. Bailiff?
Yep. B-A-L-I-S, first name Michael, middle initial R, and then Junior.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is the newer NCOE number 4561.
Okay.
And the commander at that time, I thought it was Captain Colasanto, but the commander, who I don't remember talking to, but that was Captain Mendenhall, Ryan L.
Ryan L. Mendenhall, what's the spelling?
Mendenhall, and Ryan is spelled R-Y-A-N, middle initial L, last four of her social is 1124.
Okay. Okay.
And so, and to be a little more helpful for the dates, the date of my NCER was 2010, September 21st of 2010. So
September
we would have
21st,
talked to me.
2010.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would have talked to him about it probably within the year prior to that date, sometime within the year prior to that date.
So a year prior to the date, so 2009.
Yes, sometime within that year, because a rating period is for 1 year.
Okay. Okay. So sometime between 2009, September 2009 and September 2010.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so in terms of what I was going to record, in terms of what we can look at as another audio file, what I just recorded now, I'll just we'll start the sort of like in terms of witness testimony right here, because I just want to be careful about what we publish about those individuals right now, because we want to see about talking to them.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so today is July 19th, 2025, and continuing with interviews from tomorrow. From tomorrow. Today is July 19th, 2025. Oh, July 20th? My goodness gracious, it is. So yeah, today is July 20th, 2025, and we're continuing with interviews from yesterday, during July 19th, 2025. And I wanted to just recap what we had spoken about the girls. So there was 10 to 12 films, one snuff film we spoke about yesterday, conversed about yesterday. There's one more circumstance similar where you were there when the girls were killed after the filming. There were at least two girls that were killed. Was the same MO? They were shot in the head?
I didn't witness that. And I didn't know that it was coming. We completed filming. Then the girls, they said, hey, y'all come with us. You help pack up the equipment or clean up or do something, in reference to me. And there was another person in there with me, besides the girls. And I could hear a gunshot, but I wasn't witness to it. It was outside. And I can remember the other person saying, just focus on what we've got to do. That's not us or not you or whatever like that.
Okay.
So, I can remember wondering if it was going to be my turn next or whatever, but, as far as, witnessing it or anything or knowing what happened after or how they, disposed of them, I don't know any of that.
And you said you thought they were silencing the girls, and the girls were under 13.
Well, in the brothels, Samantha had talked about that they only used the girls for a certain amount of time, because after a period of time where they kind of became cognizant that they weren't going to really ever rise above that, because the way that they would sell it to the girls is, hey, we're going to clean you up and make you beautiful, and you'll be around these rich people, and, they like young women, so if you can be what they want, then perhaps, you go off and live in a mansion with one of these rich people. But that facade or that lie or whatever only survives for so long because they're horribly abused and things like that, and after a period of time, they just kind of become aware that this is their station in life. They're never going to be, I guess, the arm candy of one of those rich people flying on Learjets, And the way that Samantha described it is once they get to that level of consciousness, they have passed their expiration date. So they would only use the girls for a certain amount of time, and they were either recruiting or finding. I don't know how they got the girls, but I can remember even in the brief period of time that I was there, because I wasn't there for longer than just a few months.
Yeah.
Maybe even just like a couple of months. But even in that small period of time, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people killed.
5 killed during 2 months.
Yes. Yes. So I saw Sarah died. She was there I was there when she died. Samantha killed another one of the girls. That was and I think she just killed her because she kept causing problems, to be honest with you. And then the 2, which I believe it was 2, it may have been 1, it could have been 3. I wouldn't swear, on the number, but I believe it was 2 in that one shoot, and then the one girl that was killed during the filming. She was killed on film while the cameras were rolling.
Yeah. And then Sarah was committing suicide, you said.
Yes. Yes.
Trisha to terrorize you.
Yes.
So those were additional killings on top of the 5 during the 2 months. Is that?
Well, let me count again. So
yeah.
Sarah, but then there's another one that I saw killed too.
So Sarah, which was sort of more of a suicide but then Samantha pulled the trigger, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then one other time where one of the girls was executed in the brothel, and that was in front of all of us.
So one of the girls was executed in the brothel. And did you say that Samantha did the execution? Did they force Samantha to do the execution or no?
2 separate instances. The one girl that was executed, I did not know her. I don't know if I'd ever even hardly spoken to her, but she was killed as some sort of retaliation. Somebody was beating Samantha, and I got involved in it. And again, it was one of those people that you couldn't touch. So they came and they didn't kill me. They didn't kill Samantha. They just killed this other girl. And I don't even think she had anything to do with it. So
was that the one in the brothel?
That was one of the ones in the brothel, yes. And then Samantha killed this other girl just because she had beat up one of the other girls, and she kept stealing stuff, and she kept trying to cause problems with the people running it, and she murdered her.
Okay.
So that was even separate of all of that. So, and I know I'm thinking of more and more.
Yeah, I suspect you'll think of a lot.
All of these things are kind of compartmentalized a little bit, so I'm thinking,
I understand.
Okay, this happened,
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I understand. There's a lot. You've been through a lot, and you're trying to diligently remember, and remembering. You'll probably remember a lot more, and how I'm making sure is comfortable. So is So there was, during the 2 months, there was at least 5 girls killed, and the killings were all related to the Trump Epstein pedophile ring. There was executions, snuff film, silencing the girls. And
now, at that brothel, I never saw anybody except this big-bellied hillbilly that ran it.
Yeah.
And then one other, I don't know what you call it, some mobster. That was the one that came in and shot kind of terrorized all of us, pointed the gun at all of us, and just shot kind of one girl at random.
Okay, so a mobster.
Yep. And I have no idea who he was. Just some older guy, gray hair. pinky ring type person, you know.
Yeah. And when the two girls were killed after the filming, tell me again what the other individual said to you, that you're good, they won't kill you, boys are hard to find.
Like, I was working, maybe packing up stuff or cleaning, or I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I remember that I want to say we were breaking down the stuff that they had used to film it. And when I heard the gunshot, I stopped working, and the guy was basically to the effect of, "This doesn't concern you, just focus on what you're doing." So I kept doing whatever it was I was doing.
And he said, boys are hard to find. You're good. Boys
Yeah,
are hard to find.
he said, "You're good. Girls are a dime a dozen, boys are hard to find." Something like that. That may not have been the exact words, but it was something to that effect.
Yeah. So it sounds like in the case with the Trump-Epstein ring, in terms of whoever they thought was expendable, disposable, the girls that were under the ages of 13 years old that were considered, would you say it was more about, were they financially poor? They would just dispose of them as they got older, more aware?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Once kind of the gig was up, where they knew that the lies that they were being told were ever going to materialize, that no matter what they did for these rich people, they were just being used.
Yeah.
They didn't want them around to kind of spoil the ones that still believed in the narrative, because the structure of that was try to get the girls to be enthusiastic, willing participants, for these rich people. And once they had reached a certain level of trauma, then they just kind of had no use for them.
Okay. So, from your experience, all the girls that you were exposed to during those particular 2 months, they all died.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the ones that I made any kind of a closer connection with, they all died. Now, I may have had, there's not even any made to it. I had connections with many people that I don't have, didn't make as much of a concrete memory with, and I couldn't tell you what transpired after the 2 months that I was there, or if some of them made it, or ran away or escaped, or I have no idea what happened to the rest.
And was
but
that
there were always
specifically that was specifically when you were at the brothel during those 2 months?
Yes.
Okay. And when you first met Trump, you were about 8 or 9, and then the last incident with Trump, you said, was when you were 12 or 13. That's correct?
As far as I know, I wouldn't swear. It could have been a more compressed time frame, say 9 to just 11. But within those years are all that I remember, around 8 to probably 12 or 13.
Yeah.
But there's a chance that it ended even before the 13-year mark. But it would definitely be within that time period.
Okay.
Because beyond that, my life kind of changed a little bit, and there wasn't, after that incident with Andy Biggs, I do not have any recollection of either being abused by anyone outside the family or any of those rich people. I had no more connection with any of that moving forward that I can recall.
Okay. And where did you go then after that period of time? Were you still with Marie Lynn and William Kyle?
Yeah. Okay, so after Tennessee, after the films,
yeah,
when we moved to Alabama, there was I couldn't even tell you for how long, but there was a period of time where I was taken away from them, placed into some sort of foster care, But I eventually, once the investigations into their activity petered out, I eventually made my way back into their house.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you think would be helpful for us to converse about during this recording?
Not that I'm remembering at this time, you know.
Yeah.
Even some of this in my own mind, I can't tell you which thing happened before the other thing. I haven't, you know, like some of it's chronological in my memory, but I can't tell you any. I am pretty sure we still lived in Tennessee when they sent me to the brothel, and that's where I met Samantha. That's where I met Patricia and Sarah. Sarah died at the brothel. I never saw, obviously, her again.
Mm-hmm.
But then Patricia, I saw. It would have been months or a year later or whatever at that party.
Yeah.
Samantha was already dead at that point. So, and then Patricia died at that party.
So Samantha was already dead.
Oh, go ahead.
So Samantha was already dead. Sarah died, and then Samantha, and then Patricia.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can because I could just remember when Patricia died. It kind of changed something inside of me, and in that, in my mind, I had just kind of lost my only friend, or my last remaining friend, and in my reasoning, there's no one left but me, meaning that the next person they're going to kill is me.
Yeah. 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 There's yeah, gosh golly. You know, that's horrific circumstances.
Yeah.
I thought there was another.
And, you know, like a lot of these girls that just come up missing, that's where they go, man. They're in that type of a situation until, you know, they take them back home, bury them out in some farm or some other place, you know. And it's sad to say that, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that Samantha went by. She's the only one that I ever heard a last name, and I believe she went by Samantha Jackson. And the police did run her name through there. At least they said they did, and it did not match a missing person for their database. So, I mean, I don't know if that was her real name, or it's just something she went by, but I do know that I can remember her talking to me about, just don't ever kill somebody for these people, because then they own you. And that was part of her problem, is that they had used her to kill somebody, and so she figured no matter what, she was correct.
Did Trump ever visit the brothel, or Trump was usually at the parties on the farms?
Just at the parties. I couldn't tell you who all went in there.
Yeah.
I can just remember Lynn dropping me off of there and just telling me how horrible it was going to be the whole trip. And, you know, I stayed there for however long, and then she came to pick me up. She got some money, but it wasn't very much, and she got angry. And whoever was running it just kind of laughed in her face because, you know, they said, what are you going to do, take us to small claims court, you know?
Yeah. And what year did Lynn commit suicide again? Where Lynn? 1980? 1980s?
No. It was Hold on, I can tell you.
Just
Well, wait a minute. No, that's not her. No, that's not her either. Here, then.
That might help.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture too.
Ah, sure, that's helpful.
Let's see, 2018.
Let's see.
So recent, that's right, it was recent.
Yeah, let's see.
She passed away peacefully during the night at her home in Johnson City, Texas, July 28, 2018. And what I had heard is that she took a bunch of sleeping pills and washed it down with some Jack Daniels.
Whoa.
But I don't have the, her autopsy report or anything like that. But here, I'll send you her picture as well.
Sure. I saw William Kyle's Facebook profile post a lot of pictures of cruise ship travel. So, I'm just gonna pause recording here right now.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and other than that, that was just some sort of a special degree of just horrible person, you know?
yeah, that's like in terms of extremity of malevolent, psychopathic, sadistic. So they shot Patricia in the torso first. And do you remember the description of the I don't want to call him a gentleman, the gentleman who was like shuffling on his feet and was uncomfortable about how much Patricia was suffering, getting tortured?
I wish I could give you a better description, but just 5 or 6 pot-bellied hillbillies. You know, kind of if you looked at older pictures of my dad, they just kind of look like him. Just larger, thick people, not necessarily fat, not necessarily what you would think of as like a country boy, a big country boy, you know, beards, a little bit of hair, you know,
Yeah.
just thick, 5'10" to 6'1", you know, bigger, 235, 250 pound guys.
So
Just larger country boys, and I couldn't even tell you like their facial features or anything like that. I can remember at least some had facial hair, beards, mustaches, that sort of thing, and just larger people dressed in what you would consider just kind of country music type of attire.
yeah. Okay.
And blue jeans and, you know, button up cowboy type shirts.
Yeah. So they
That's what all of them look like.
okay. So when they had guns, you said you remembered one, and then 2 or 3, maybe 4 of them had guns. One of them shot Patricia in the chest. They tortured and raped Patricia. The one hillbilly was uncomfortable and said just end it to kill Patricia. But they, how long did they continue torturing Patricia before they shot Patricia in the head?
If I had to guess, I'd say probably in the realm of 30 minutes or so.
7 minutes.
I can remember that one of them raped her. Not everybody wanted to participate in that, And then the one guy just seemed, of those people, only one person really seemed exceptionally uncomfortable about the whole thing and didn't want to be there.
Yeah. And Patricia said, Patricia wanted to die. That was what you remember Patricia saying to you, to kill Patricia? Like, or that Patricia was just saying...
They had beaten her, like...
So badly?
I don't know if all of them had beaten her, but one of them beat her, hit her really hard in, like, the ribs and things like that. She was having trouble breathing. And in my estimation, I think she already knew that they were going to kill her. And she just said, please just kill me. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I can remember looking at her and saying, baby, you're going to come be with me right now. And she looked at me and she smiled. And I said, I love you. And one of them shot her.
Yeah.
And she was having trouble. I said, just look at me. Don't look at them. And the other guy, he was breaking down. That guy that I'm telling you was shuffling on his feet. He said, I mean, he got a little upset or agitated or something and said, just fucking end it or just shoot her in the fucking head. Whatever he said, because he was not enjoying it. Like the guy that was doing the, I guess you could just call it torture.
Yeah.
So after that, he shot her in the head, and then I can remember them arguing, why did you shoot her there? Because now we have to find another mattress, you fucking idiot, or whatever you called him. And yeah, the way that those people talk, he's like, shut your mouth or we'll get rid of two bodies or something, that may not have been the exact conversation, but that was the mood of it and kind of the information that was getting passed back, And then they wrapped her up in a sheet, took her out, and then I think there was some discussion as to whether or not they could just put a sheet over the mattress, but there was blood on it. They said no, so they rolled up the mattress or did whatever they did with the mattress, and went and found another one, and that's how that went. It wasn't a big bed. It wasn't like a queen size bed. The way I remember it, it was just like a twin bed.
And then Trump came in the room.
Yes.
Now, in terms of, you said you didn't remember if there was any cameras. There was Patricia getting killed filmed? Do you remember seeing any cameras at all?
I do not remember seeing any cameras at that time. So if there was a way to record it, there wasn't any. We went into that room alone, not knowing that it was going to get.
It was a setup.
Interrupted.
Yeah.
Right. And so there were no cameras or anything that we weren't, unless there was some sort of mirror, two-way mirror, and something set up behind it. That's possible that it was being filmed without our knowledge, but no. As far as do I know if there was any way to record that, I don't think so.
Do you remember whether there was any sort of?
It would have been. I'm
nope.
sorry.
Go ahead.
From a logic perspective, I don't think it would have been recorded because those 6 people were in that room too. So 5, 6, how many was? I think it was 5 or 6. They would have been in it wasn't a particularly big room. It wasn't like a main room. It was like a guest room with an individual bed. So in my mind, I would doubt that was filmed because it would have had those people that murdered her in the frame too. Whereas when they shot that girl in that second instance in the film shoot, the cameras were pointed to us in the bed, and then the person came in and shot her from, like, you couldn't see the person shooting from the person who fired the shot from the film.
Was there?
You just know she got shot.
Yeah. So in the room, was there somewhere where there might have been a peephole?
There Yeah, I mean, that's possible. If somebody was just watching,
Like,
maybe even Trump himself, like he wasn't there for any of that initial part. He just came in after.
yeah. And you said your sense, what they had said, what they tried to convey to you is that they knew Trump was coming in the room after, like Trump had hired them to
Yes.
torture and kill Patricia.
Pointed the gun at me and said, "There's gonna be an old boy comes in here, and real southern drawl. There's gonna be an old boy comes in here. You're gonna do whatever he says, or I'll put a bullet in you too." And he called me something, you little hillbilly fuck, or whatever he called, and that was the one that had killed Patricia, and he was smiling. So he wasn't trying, you know. I just remember how much pleasure he took in the kind of the horror of the situation.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I'm trying to just get a sense in terms of, because it seems obviously that obviously they knew about Trump, that Trump wouldn't just like stand in the hallway and cool his heels. It's the sort of situation,
Right.
like from what you've described, what I know of Trump, that Trump would have wanted to hear what was going on or watch.
that's possible. I can't remember the exact layout of the room.
Or that Trump just wanted, yeah, or Trump just wanted you terrorized when Trump came into the room later.
It definitely wanted me afraid.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And if that was to do with his desire to make the experience as possible for me as possible, or whether that was for his psyche to give him some protection, because I was kind of already known, I think at that point, as being somebody that would fight back to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
You know, so it could have been either circumstance, but it was definitely to shock, traumatize, and make me more pliable, I guess, in terms of acquiescing to whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I can just remember thinking, I'm gonna kill this sumbitch if I can just get an opportunity. You know, I'm a child at this point, you know, around, we would say 12 years old. So he's a much larger person than I am, and of course 40 years ago he wasn't feeble. So, you know, I was looking for that vulnerable point where I could try to kill him, you know.
Well, that's understandable context. You know, there's a lot of, you know, policy legislation for law per country where, you know, that's a situation, extreme circumstances when you're acting in self-defense. You had no idea at that point whether they might just come in and kill you right after. They'd said if you didn't do what they called Trump the old boy wanted, that they'd shoot you in the head as well.
Yeah, they never said his name, I can tell you that, but I recognized him, and then I didn't see him until a number of years later on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I don't know if you remember that, with Robin Leach.
Oh yeah.
But I saw Trump on one of those episodes, and I knew that was him.
Yeah.
So at that time, I did not know that this is Donald Trump. It's just that later when I saw him on the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, I said, well, I know that rich asshole. You know, because in my mind, even as a child, you know, they present on TV, you know, these rich people being, you know, something that you want to be. But from my experience, human beings on planet Earth.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are folks that are financially wealthy that aren't as utterly horrifyingly malevolent. You sure.
My adult me knows that,
but there are a lot. There's obviously a lot. You encountered the worst of the worst, without question.
I am hopeful, though, that they have already made one connection, And if they do any more digging, all they're going to do is find more connections.
Yeah.
Because my dad has been involved in that sort of activity since at least 1980, at least, and probably even a few years before that.
Yeah.
So we're talking 45 years, and those paths are going to cross. I know that they're looking for specific intersections between him and Epstein, which I know exist.
Yeah.
But he's also going to intersect with many other people that were involved in all of that stuff.
Yeah.
He was kind of just one of those, being a pilot and being a famous guy that could handle himself, and having his, I'm pretty sure, private investigator's license. And just thinking from my standpoint, what that gives you the right to do, like you said, to initiate investigations, look into databases, also carry a sidearm.
Yeah.
So all of those things together, it definitely paints definitely paints a picture.
Yeah, so in terms of Ed Offerman, I would be careful. I wouldn't contact him if Ed contacts you again. Is the sort of situation where, if you had any idea, like in terms of who was corrupt and who isn't corrupt, it'd be like more like, in terms of investigations. I think I have some contacts in terms of human rights lawyers and so on. And that might be where we find some more Dudley Do Rights that could help, even in terms of like prosecutors, whether in the United States and the ICC and so on. There's one or two Americans that have been involved in civil rights, one involved in civil rights cases that I think might help. That might be able to help. Yeah. So, okay, day by day. Once I'll get sort of a preliminary list during the next couple of days, and I'll get the audio files. I'll look at them, get them sorted, look at getting them uploaded onto Proton Drive, and just sort of simmer with things. We can sort of go through the list. I want to just sort of go conversation by conversation in terms of folks I'm waiting for callbacks from, some that might have suggestions in terms of prosecutors here in Canada. And then I just want to make sure, in terms of careful contacts with, I don't want to waste time talking to Americans. I don't want to waste time speaking to Americans that say they're going to behave helpful and that don't. It's not right,
Right.
So, and I want to be extremely careful in terms of Americans just, because of the circumstances. So, in your case, I think it would be a good idea, just prudent, just to have a go bag packed. Just.
I always do.
Oh, good. You know what I would love? If you would send me a text or something just with what you generally have in your go bag, just as, because that's helpful for me to have a look at, just in terms of, earthquake preparedness and so on and stuff. I'd love to have a look at what you.
Yes. It's funny that you say that, because I was just recommending, because of all these floods, to some people that they pack one, and they were asking me the same thing. And I was just saying, hey, your birth certificate, your social security card, your very important papers, your passport, anything that you cannot reduplicate.
Yeah.
For your life. And then, like clothes and stuff like that aren't necessarily that important. You can leave with clothes on your back and still rebuild. Money, jewelry, firearm if you have one.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. I don't have anything sentimental or anything like that. It's just the one thing. As a matter of fact, it's on my bed right now. That's why I've got my paperwork for my to relay First Sergeant Bayless's information.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I would definitely. I'd probably love Canada anyway. You guys are friendly up there. Way more friendly than that.
Yeah. A lot of folks that travel here, they're shocked by how, you know, most of the Canadians they come across are like super helpful and all that good stuff.
That way here in America.
Yeah.
It used to be 40, 50 years ago. It was an entirely different experience here in America. And to be honest with you, from somebody that's been here almost my whole life, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see how it's just how we've been divided.
Yeah.
You know, how it's an us versus them, and if you're on the red team, you're bad, and if you're on the blue team, you're not a patriot, and all this bullshit. And a lot of it just seems performative anymore from both sides to a degree.
Yeah.
One side is definitely, if you just look at the money, that's left. In my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, it's quite different. It's quite different indeed. So, okay. Well, let's, radio silence with everyone else. Keep in touch with those Allen analysis folks. Might be interesting. I'll see about us get a better sense of things about, a conversation with them, maybe. You and I and the folks from Al. Did you talk to anyone at the Crustacean yet?
I have not. I answered them back. They have not reached back out to me. But the last contact I had with them before I spoke to you was that they were going to go and see if they could make a connection to either William Sasha Riley, my legal name now, Manuel Sasha Barros, my name before it was changed, and William K. Riley. So, through those flight logs. So I don't know if they are still working that aspect of it, or if they have thus run into a dead end, or what. But I had delayed my reaching back out to them, just kind of waiting to see what was going to transpire here. So that's where we are with them. So in my mind, I was just going to be polite but not give too much information. If they did reach back out, because I certainly don't want to brush them off, especially if they're actively pursuing leads and stuff like that. But I wasn't going to necessarily push forward and, or do another interview or anything like that, not at this time anyway. So that's kind of where we are with that one. But there were initially that reached out. You were one of the four. The other two we've spoken about in the Crustacean, they have not had further contact. So
okay. I think
we shall see.
Yeah, I think if they follow up, I just have a really strong sense that should really be radio silence.
Okay.
I'd really like to see, in terms of speaking to some ethical prosecutors. Yeah.
Sounds good. I definitely appreciate all the follow-ups thus far. It's kind of, like I said, I'm a little nervous and anxious, but as long as this can get peeled back a little bit, I feel like we're going to open the whole can of worms.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It's like somebody said, well, why can't, and this is just on the line, the sentiment from most of the people is if this is just going to decimate the entire government, well, then the entire government needs to be decimated. If the bulk of our institutions have been serving to use us as slaves and keep it quiet, then, we need to purge that system, So,
yeah.
There are definitely some influential people, though, that's going to expose that aren't going to be too terribly happy about it. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they don't have any. They don't. Those perpetrators don't have any say in the matter. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I appreciate everything. I will be waiting to kind of hear something else, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll look forward to checking in soon.
You do as well. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
I don't find it all.
Okay, so I'm recording right now. So, yeah, looks like so there's obviously a lot of activity. I've seen there's some reports that they're really trying to push. Lindsey Graham was asking for a special counsel to get appointed to investigate Obama for treason. So seems to me like, at least was what we were speaking about yesterday. The very fundamental question is, what sort of crimes are the Republicans willing to attempt to commit to try to squash this story?
Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything that's off the table.
Yeah.
If and this is just speculation, I've read things that suggest it, but I wouldn't present it as fact. But if they have already used the system to silence Epstein, then you would have to make the logical conclusion that there is no barrier, for them other than what they believe they may get away with. It would, that would just be where I would be from a logic standpoint if I were questioned on what I thought.
Yeah, I understand. So let's sort of run through a few things. So I called the federal RCMP yesterday, and unfortunately, they just referred me back to a local priest, to the local police here, which they can only really do anything if it's tied to Vancouver Island. And the only way it could seem like it's tied to Vancouver Island if there's some sort of threat or something. That being said, I did have a long conversation with a police officer who had some interesting feedback. And towards the end of the discussion, the officer said, the officer mainly said what the officer needs is even to write up an investigation to get referred to their intel department and then to the right agency. They need some corroborative, not so much evidence in the films, but just reports like, do you have a copy of your military, the years you were in the military? Do you have any copies of the CPS reports and stuff? Because they have some of those documents they can include then to write up, so then goes into their intel department and off to the right agency.
Okay.
So that's what I sent you an email of, but we can talk about that in a minute, because I think there's some optics there. We want to be careful how we're asking those questions, right? In terms of any flags. So, but then the officer offered to store the audio securely, and B, the officer offered to listen to the audio while, I said, and what about when we get some of these documents, what can the officer look at? And the officer said then the officer can write up a longer police report with something that sort of corroborates. And by corroborate, I'm not talking about like the films or anything, just like some starting point in terms of an investigation to refer to their intel group and then to another agency, whether it's like regarding national security or whatever. So
I have an idea.
Yeah.
All right. So in 1989, I was housed at a behavioral hospital in Alabama. It's called Charterwoods Memorial Hospital or Mental Hospital. I'm not sure. My parents had accused me of being on drugs, so I wasn't. Not at that point in my life. I have experimented with drugs since, but not as a child, not willingly as a child. So anyway, that would have been the first time that I talked about Donald Trump specifically by name. So I'm going to go there as soon as I get my bike back. It could be as early as tomorrow, but I'll take a little road trip and see if I can't get that paperwork. The hospital itself has been closed down, but as I understand it, all medical records have to be stored in the medical archives. And I forget which city that's in, but Alabama's not very far from me. So I'll take a trip down there and see if I can retrieve those, because that, in my mind, is the best connection that I have, because I mentioned him by name. That was the first time that I did that.
Yeah. Okay.
Not releasing the Epstein file.